Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. All right, so when you're starting a business, one of the most frustrating things is when you don't know what you don't know, and worse, when you don't know who to ask. I deal with a lot of business owners who are just starting out. And one of the most frustrating things for them is not knowing who to ask these questions to. It's bad enough that we're afraid to ask these questions out of shame or out of fear, or out of just like feeling like we should know this stuff. So if it's like, where should I open a business bank account? Or how do I set up an LLC? And how do I get an EIN number? All of these things you're afraid to ask. But also, like, who the hell knows this stuff? Like, who are you supposed to go to with this? And here's the worst problem. If you go to your CPA, I'm hearing this story a lot, that if you're going to your CPA and the CPA is dismissing you or saying, that's something I can't answer for you, or I don't really know, or why don't you Google it, or whatever. Just for my CPAs out there listening, I know some of you accountants listen to this. If your client is asking you, they are trusting you for guidance, please do not squander that and actually help them. Even if it's a simple question they can Google, like Google it for them, share what you found, be helpful, please. But when you don't know who to ask and then you ask someone and then they dismiss you, it's really discouraging. So I'm going to tell you that I'm going to shortcut this for you, because a lot of questions get asked to accountants like me that are not for us. And here's the hard part. A lot of us accountants actually have this opposite problem, where we want to help you so badly in the name of customer service that we're answering questions we'd have no business answering because we've just learned enough that we can answer these questions, but like, it's not part of what we're supposed to be doing. So like, you can ask me marketing questions. I could probably answer a bunch of them. I'm not supposed to be answering those questions. Like, I'm not supposed to be your resource for that. So if you're paying me as an accountant, I'm not supposed to be answering legal things. And that's what I'm going to talk about, is like, who do I ask what to? So if you're starting a business, or even if you're in a business and you're like, I need somebody to hire, and I don't really know who is supposed to answer what questions, it's a lot easier to identify who to hire or who to engage if you know what questions they answer, because then wait, I have these questions, therefore I need this person. So let's dive into, who do you ask? Okay. Now, I have this thing that I always say when I'm coaching, newer entrepreneurs, and when I'm talking to CFO on demand. And I say, lawyers do letters, accountants do numbers. And here's what I mean by that. If it's about the LLC, if it's about forming the LLC, or doing contracts, or doing like terms, or doing anything with writing letters. When I say letters, I mean like the alphabet. If it deals with the alphabet, it's probably a lawyer. If it deals with numbers, it's probably an accountant. General rule of thumb. So if you're talking about forming an LLC, go to your lawyer. An LLC formation is actually just a question of legal liability. From a tax standpoint, whether you have an LLC, if you're a single member, if you have an LLC, or you're a sole proprietor, it doesn't matter at all for taxes. So we have no stake in telling you the answer to that. There is a little caveat to say, hey, if you want the S Corp eventually, you're going to need the LLC to do it. But we technically can't tell you, go get the LLC. We can't do that as accountants. We can't say like, you should get an LLC. That's legal advice. So we have to refer you to a lawyer that can answer that question of, do you need to separate the legal liability? Most accountants will tell you to wait to set up the LLC. They'll tell you, go wait to set it up until you're making money, because especially in states like California, Massachusetts, these come with a heavy fee to maintain. Like, you have to pay $800, $500, a couple $100 a year just to have the LLC. Most accountants, being really fiscally responsible and conservative, would say, don't pay that until you have to. And, most lawyers are going to say, protect yourself from day one and get that set up. Now, we all have our own opinions, but The hard part is that we have our own opinions that we shouldn't be projecting on you without knowing all the facts and circumstances. For example, you might meet a nutritionist or a trainer or somebody in the health and wellness space who just loves, say, the keto diet. And you say, "Hey, I want to lose weight. Should I consider going on the keto diet?" Of course, they're going to say yes. They're like a big advocate for that. But you're going to meet other people who are like, "Nah, you don't need to do that. You know what you should do? Paleo. You know what you should do? Whatever. Like you should do this instead because of XYZ." The person with the best advice is generally the person who asks you three questions for every question you ask because they want to get to the root of, well, why are you trying to lose weight? You know, where's this coming from? What is your typical diet like right now? What are your favorite foods? Things like that. Like what are your typical habits? How sedentary are you? These are the things that we need to be considering like as legal advisors and as accountants to say, wait a second, should I get an LLC? I'd say, well, do you have a lot of assets that you want to protect? Do you want to consider that? I can only inform, I can only educate, but you have to go to a lawyer for that question if you truly do not know. Or honestly, you can do a lot of research online and find the answers yourself through education. Because if you were to ask me as an accountant, you would go to an accountant and ask them. They're going to be so afraid to answer you because that is improper practice of law. Because we would say, yeah, you should get an LLC. You can't do that. We can't do that. We can get in big trouble for doing that. So that's why accountants are going to be hesitant to answer you, but they're not going to tell you that. Some of them won't. So I'm telling you right now, if you ask your accountant about setting up an LLC, they should tell you, I can't answer that question. But they're not being a-holes, I promise. They're just doing what they're supposed to do. But they should refer you to a lawyer. Now, when it comes to asking about, restructuring your companies, your ecosystem, if you're like, hey, do I need a corporation? Do I need a management company? Do I need a holding company with all these other companies and like a trust over here and like all these bells and whistles in my whole organization ecosystem? We're getting real advanced here. Who do you ask that question to? Now, here's the best approach. The absolute best approach, and this is the only approach where I will get involved. We can talk about what could happen from a tax standpoint with restructuring or with setting up multiple entities and how it would impact you. But that is just one lens to look through. You'd want to have a lawyer and a tax advisor in the room, basically doing the puzzle together, because there's going to be an answer that will favor you legally, and there will be an answer that favors you tax wise. Those two things almost always are not the same answer. So at some point at the end of the story, you're going to be presented with option A, option B, and you have to find something in between, or you have to basically collaborate. The accountant and the lawyer have to collaborate into the answer. And that's really where you're going to find the optimal result is that Venn diagram between what the lawyer wants and what the accountant wants. And that's super important to understand because it can be tempting to say, hey, like I just want the tax minimized option. But this could really like F up legally. Also, it could put you in a bad position if you were to sell your business. If you commingle things too much or if things are set up a certain way, it could be challenging. So you want to sit down with people who understand all the sides of this and you can express your goals too and you can figure that out. So when you get a little bit further along, this is who you should be asking. Hey, real quick, are you learning anything in this episode that you think is share worthy? Well, if you could take a quick screenshot and share any of your biggest takeaways or quotes from this episode, post it to Instagram and make sure to tag me at Shannon K. Weinstein and at Keep What You Earn. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Let's dive back in. When it comes to anything with finances in your personal wealth journey, this is where you have to be careful. Your accountant is very much a Swiss Army knife when it comes to numbers, money, and good practices. However, you have to really understand what have you engaged them to do with you? What is your relationship? Because if if their relationship to you is that of a tax preparer where they just fill out your tax forms every year, they probably don't know enough of the backstory to know like what to do with your money outside of your business or outside of taxes. Furthermore, if you have somebody who's like a CFO like me, then as a business CFO, my clients come to me and they'll say, hey, should I invest in a stock portfolio? Should I invest in my retirement? Should I put money over here? Should I pay off this giant debt that I have? And I go, hold the phone. Once the money exits your business bank account, It really isn't the scope or responsibility of your bookkeeper, your business tax advisor, your business CFO to really deal with all that. Now, can you talk to me like two friends getting coffee and you're like, hey, not looking for investment advice, but like, where would you put your money? Or how would you handle this? Or how do you handle this? Typically, Shannon, who do you have manage your money? Whatever. If you want to talk to me like a friend over coffee, that's cool. But like, if I'm in the capacity of your CPA, your CFO, I'm not going to give you that advice. I'm going to point you to a wealth advisor, financial advisor, certified financial planner. These are all terms you should know when you're looking for what do I do with my money once it exits my business bank account. And you also want to be working with possibly, if you're not working with one of them, meaning you don't have a ton of assets, a ton of, wealth to manage, and you just want to know how to build strong habits personally, then this might be someone like a money coach or someone who can help you with personal budgeting, somebody who could really look at the story of how your money is being spent and earned and say, hey, this is what we need to do to modify so that we're better managing our finances at home as a family, as an individual, whatever that looks like. And yes, if you're wondering, like, hey, can my CFO or my CPA do that for me? There's no doubt I have the skills to be able to do that. But what you have to fully understand is who you've hired to do what. So here's how you can understand this is you hired me to be a chef at your Mexican restaurant. And you go, "Okay, Shannon, I need somebody to come over my house and I need them to cook me a full Italian dinner. Can you come and do that?" And I say, "You know what? I'm really good at this cuisine. I know I could probably pop out some Chef Boyardee and be okay, but like you deserve better than that. You deserve a specialist who like really can deliver on an Italian dinner for your family. So just because I'm the familiar person that you're used to dealing with, that is actually not in my skill set or wheelhouse. And that's not actually the type of service I want to be providing right now. That's just not on my menu, literally. And that's okay. Like we have the skill to be able to help with these things, but we get really muddy water of our offer when we just say yes to doing all these ancillary extra things. Like we really have to stick to this is the menu of what I offer. And I'm sorry, I can't do all those other services for you. But there are people who do. And there are people who are really good at it. So I would strongly recommend that you specifically engage somebody who has the services that you want. So if you're wondering, who do I ask? What do I do with my money? That is, again, financial advisor, certified financial planner, or wealth manager. That is somebody who can help you actually manage your money. So if you're wondering, how do I find these people? This is something we can also help with in CFO On Demand. We're actually working on bringing in other professionals to come and speak to the group about these different dimensions of professionals. So having a financial advisor come in and give tips, have a business lawyer come in and give tips, because I can't answer everything to this point exactly. I can't answer every single question that's coming up in CFO On Demand, and I'm really not equipped to. So instead of me just bouncing it off and saying, sorry, I can't answer that, I'm going to find people who can and bring them in. So if you want to be a part of that, head over to the link in the show notes to learn more about how you can join CFO On Demand right now before prices go up once we add all of these other elements in. All right, I'll see you on the next episode. Okay, real talk. Our business can really mess with our emotions and our mindset. Am I right? One day we feel like we're unstoppable, like we could run through a wall, and then the next we want to burn it all down and start from scratch. Hey, I'm with you. A lot of this has to do with how we approach our money. And if you need a quick jolt of mindset habits for the next 5 days to help you reboot and recalibrate, check out my 5-day financial mindset refresh delivered straight to your email. Click the link in the show notes to sign up right now. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.